First day, day one. You studying for yellow, tomorrow writing yellow. The whole door. You're a little bit under the schedule, under the water. But don't be stressing, it's just yellow. Very good, man. We're just studying, we're preparing for this day. We're in grammar, we're just revising in it. We know the shit. I just arrived at school, man. Arrived at school. Let's walk, man. Let's walk. First episode, and counting people one. See what's happening out here. Empty that shit. Behind the scenes, my first day trying to study after failure. So I'm gonna be humble and I'm gonna be honest and try and work hard and get rid of this fatigue, this feeling of laziness, because that's what it is laziness. So yeah, that was the first day. Tried studying for accounting, but the day isn't over yet, so I'm gonna try and push for the last few hours of the day. Maybe something might happen, and yeah, I'm just trying to keep accountable, man, because it's tough. It's really tough. It is really tough. Man, and the stress of the expectation that you put on yourself is so much more heavier. So yeah, hopefully I'm gonna do something today, just a little something. And yeah, thank you, man. They say the start is the hardest part, and it actually is, because when you start, it's actually very hard to just start. I just want to start, and then I'll just keep on going. Just hope I get started, for the sake of the future, for the sake of the legacy, for the sake of the family, for the sake of myself, for the sake of happiness, for the sake of everything. I don't know why I'm putting so much strain on this exam and exam alone, but I know that they mean a lot. I'm not gonna take them for granted. I know that this is the time for me to prove myself. I know I'm capable of doing way much more, and many people are putting a lot of expectations on my name, and I understand that when they believe in me more than I believe in myself, it hurts myself. So I have to believe in myself more than anyone can ever believe in me. So yeah, this is the low before anything, before the beginning. Yeah. Yeah, bro, we're trying, man. Trying to focus. Trying to focus. We're trying to come back. We're tired. We just drank a whole cup of milk. Let me do 50 push-ups. After doing 50 push-ups, maybe we'll make it after that. See. Another 50 push-ups. Let's go. Hopefully we're back. Hopefully we're back. And if you're not back, this. Look at this, man. Look at this. Look at this. That's me preparing. behind the scenes, man, of academically stressing right now. But we're always gonna be working hard to make sure we ain't disappoint ourselves. Peace. Welcome to behind the scenes of a matric life, a matric tyrant. You know, we're studying accounting and whatnot. Paper one is coming up tomorrow. And you know, the series I'm recording and I'm not posting. So in the series, it's Sunday, the 1st of June, and I'm preparing. You know, people be grinding, people be working hard. I'm just preparing. Hopefully tomorrow I'm ready. You know, tomorrow is a big day. 2 hours, 3 hour paper. I think it should be a 3 hour paper, but it's 2 hours, so I have to pace myself. First of all, after I pace myself, I also have to little bit ace that test, because we know we aiming high, and that's not me being arrogant, but we aiming high always, 100%. Always aim for 100%. If you can hit 100%, 90 plus. Come on, man. Come on, man. I remember term one, accounting humbled me. One of the few subjects that humbled me last term, but this term I'm gonna show you who's boss in it. But anyway, that's just behind the scenes of a preparation for accounting. Let's go behind. Look at it. See that? There's just simple shit. Simple. Yeah, we learning something. Specific identification method. If it shows up tomorrow in the test, I will be celebrating in my next video, which is tomorrow. Recording videos every day. Check up, check in, whatever you wanna call it. But yeah, today is another day. Sabangena sababona. Ivulo evalo ushiya ngaphakathi. Sabangena sababona. Eish. Anyway, peace. Wait, what? Welcome to my YouTube channel. You know, I'm introducing a new series called Behind the Scenes of Matric Tyrant. Here we'll be diving in, seeing what actually happens behind the scenes of a matric learner who has academic stress and academic expectations. You know, if you want to tune in, see what actually happens behind the scenes and not be like, this guy, he'd be doing good in the school. But he doesn't show us the methods. He's so selfish and whatnot. It's me showing you the methods, dog, but I'm gonna show you after the exam so you can see for term 3, so you can get ready. This is just me preparing and shit. You can see me now. I'm about 50% there, 50% ready for the exam paper 1 accounting. Then we're gonna pull all night. And wait, what time is it? See the thing on every 2 phones is nice. You can see with the time. But yeah, you will see me dominate. You'll see me treat these papers as if I'm actually abusing them, but you know, it's not personal, but it is. Because last term you actually made me a fool of me. But anyway, we're gonna be back in it. Level 5. Last term, that was sad. I got 2 level 5s in my bought last time. It was a point of no return. And now we're going to make sure that we have no level 5s, level 6 and 7s only. And I know that might be high expectations to those who are watching right now, but trust and believe. I think I can make it. And if I think I can make it, I can make it. If I believe in myself, I can make it. And if you can believe in yourself too, that's good. But yeah, episode 1 of the series, we just preparing accounting. You have the calculator. You always gotta have a calculator, man. Always gotta have a calculator for whatever subject you have. Even when you're writing, you gotta calculate, because you gotta see where you're at. Always calculate. The number will show you what you are actually worth. And if you know your worth, you'll study harder. Study harder, man. And yeah, I think I'm about 50% ready. I think I'm gonna push up until from currently time is 6:44, 6:45, and about 15 minutes I'm gonna be grinding from 7 up until 11, because I want to have like a 6-hour rest, get ready for tomorrow, and then wake up at 5 and just touch up a few topics. Hopefully I don't need that much in the morning, and hopefully my energy sustains throughout the night. Thank you. And this is the first video on a long series, scheduled series. I'll be dropping a video like every day. Let's see how far I know about the balance sheet, because I've just done balance sheet for the past 30 minutes. We just did a asset section. Asset section, we start with the non-current assets. In the non-current assets, as you can see, you have the non-current assets, you have the fixed assets, the tangible assets. You will need to do a note for the fixed assets, the fixed tangible asset, and record the fixed assets at carrying value, because that's the amount that is added to the business. The fixed asset at carrying value, to calculate, you have to say whether it's vehicle or whether it's equipment. You say vehicle or equipment minus accumulated depreciation of that specific vehicle or equipment, then you get the carrying value. And land and building should also be added. Even though land and building does not have the depreciation, you put it as it is into the fixed assets or tangible assets of the balance sheet. This is the first note. And then we have financial assets. Those are your fixed deposits, your interest and investments that are longer than 1 year, and your long-term loan that you've probably acquired from the loan that you took from some bank. And yeah, the financial assets are the things that are expected to make a return for the business in the future. There's the first part of the assets. There's the non-current assets. And when we go to the current assets, the current assets are the short-term assets that are supposed to be converting into cash in between the first 12 months. And then we have the inventory. To calculate the balance sheet, you will need to have the inventory and use the closing stock. Take the closing stock, and as I can see here where they made an adjustment, let's see what type of adjustment did they make. Let's see. Wait, I'm gonna show you first. I'm gonna pause this. Yeah, let me continue the video. Inventory, you take the closing stock and you check your adjustment to see if you have any other adjustments that you need to follow, and you need to add to the inventory. Maybe you had return of stock. A return of stock will indicate an addition on the inventories, because it's becoming stock on hand. Inventories is the stock on hand, the closing stock. And then we have the trade and other receivables, where we have the net, we have the trade debtors, and then we have accrued income. We have trade debtors, which we minus. We have trade debtors that owe us money, so we add them. And then we add inside the trade debtors, we add accrued income, provision for bad debts, always a minus, and accrued income always a plus. The income earned but not paid yet. And then prepaid expenses always a plus. The expenses that you've paid for in advance, always a plus. And then we also have the cash and cash equivalents. This one is pitch shorter. Bank balance consists of a bank balance. If the bank balance is positive, it will show in the cash and cash equivalents, but if it's negative, it will show as an overdraft, as a liability. And you have petty cash and cash float, which you might see in your transactions. Thank you. That is the first part of the balance sheet asset section, total assets. Now the second part of which is the equity of the balance sheet, is going to be broken down into two parts, which are two separate notes that need to be prepared before we finish, like the equity of the business, the equity part of the balance sheet. These two notes are the ordinary share capital note. Let's start with the ordinary share capital note. In the ordinary share capital note, you have to prepare the note. The note goes as follows. There will be, example, a question that says you have 500,000 authorized shares to sell. That amount should not be used. You're gonna use the amount that is, when they say maybe 200,000 shares were in issue, that's the amount that you're gonna use, and then add that amount of shares and then calculate the value, whether the value is given to you or not. And then if you want to calculate the amount of shares repurchased, let's say they say 80,000 shares were repurchased, you do not use the amount. They will say 80,000 shares were repurchased at 7 rand and 70 cents per share. You will have to calculate the average issue price. Do not use the share price that they gave you. And then to calculate, you take the beginning, the opening amount and opening value of the shares, let's say the 200,000, over the 200, the amount of shares, the 200 amount of shares, 200,000 amount of shares. Then you'll find the average issue price, and then you multiply that 80,000 by the issue price to get the amount. And it's always in brackets. Even at the amount of shares, the side, it's always in brackets. It's also always in brackets when is it the value. Always put the value in brackets when you are repurchasing shares. And the total that you get there, you take it straight to the balance sheet and you enter it under ordinary share capital note. It will have an adjustment under equity. And secondly, you also have the retained income note. What's important about the retained income note, you have to remind yourself about the format, because sometimes some things are omitted purposefully. The examiner might omit some things. So yeah, the retained income note goes as follows. First, you have the balance at the beginning of the year, and then you have the net profit after tax. After that, you have shares repurchased. This one is an interesting one. The shares repurchased must always be in a bracket, and to calculate the shares repurchased, you use the amount. Remember the amount of the ordinary share capital, the 7 rand 70 cents, maybe above average issue price. You take that average issue price, you subtract it from the amount that is above the issue price of the share, and then you take again the 80,000 and multiply it again by the difference. Then you'll get that amount and put it in the bracket. After you have the ordinary share dividends, they consist of the interim dividends and the final dividends. You add them together and then you put them in a bracket to show that these are expenses. And then your balance at the end of the year, you take that amount and take it straight to the capital and the reserves, the equity, not capital and reserves. Take it straight to the equity, and then your equity part is finished. Those are the two notes you need to prepare so that you have your equity part of the balance sheet ready. This is the third part of the balance sheet. We're going to need to calculate. First part was assets, more specifically non-current assets and current assets, and then we did the equity And now we're gonna do non-current liabilities and current liabilities. Non-current liabilities. When you hear non-current liabilities, your first thing is a loan. And when calculating the loan, there's adjustment in the balance sheet. You start with the opening balance of the loan and then subtract the current portion of the loan, which is to be paid within the next 12 months. That's the amount for the loan. That's the adjustment. That's the calculation. Simple as that. And then we have the current liabilities. Current liabilities consist of trade and other payables, shareholders with dividends. Wait, I need gasoline. Yeah, current liabilities consist of trade and other payables, shareholders for dividends, and the current portion of the loan, which we do recorded at the non-current liabilities at the loan. The trade and other payables consist of the creditor's control. Don't forget creditor's control, the accrued expense. Accrued expense means expenses we've not yet paid that we need to pay. The income received in advance. It's an expense to us, it's a liability to us. And the SARS income tax payables, we add it because it's a liability to us, current liability. And the creditors for salaries, which means we haven't paid our employees their salaries yet, so that will have to be added under trade and other payables. And we will only be able to minus when the amounts have been paid off, or they have been paid off. And then we have the shareholders for dividends. In terms of shareholders for dividends, we only use the final dividends, the declared amount in the retained income note, where they say the final dividend is declared at the end of the year. That amount will be used here in the current liabilities as a liability. And then we have finally the current portion of the loan. The portion of the loan is the amount to be paid for the next 12 months. That is the balance sheet in a nutshell. Thank you. And now we are going off to the cash flow statement. Sunday, man. Let me just be pushing and shit. What have I studied so far? Let's break it down. In terms of accounting paper 2, let's see what we've studied so far. Let's, read off. I've studied manufacturing. I started with the concept. The concept starts with the direct labor, direct materials, and the factory overheads, the three notes to the production cost statement. And then we got deeper into it, talked about finished goods. Finished goods are the products that are completely finished and are ready for sale. Also studied that indirect materials, which are recorded under factory overheads, and the raw material stock, which is work in process stock. Opening balance of the raw material stock is added in the production statement and subtracted in the production state. In the closing balance is subtracted in the working balance statement. And I know how to calculate the break-even point. Break-even point is fixed assets over selling price per unit minus variable cost per unit. That is the break-even point. And then we have the three notes to the production statement. First, we start with the direct material cost. We start with the opening balance of the raw material stock, and then you add the purchase of raw materials, and then you add the carriage on the purchase of raw materials, and you add transport of the raw materials. The only thing that you minus is the raw material stock at the end. And then and that will be the raw materials issued to the factory. And in terms of direct labor cost, what I've learned is we take the gross salary and then we add the employer's contributions, and then after then we work out which section provides for the factory, for because we're dealing with manufacturing. So every time we're calculating, they'll give us like a fraction of percentage, like 20% or 80% is for factory, and then we have to multiply by the percentage, or they gave us square meters or something like that. So yeah, direct material plus direct labor equals prime cost. Prime cost plus factory overheads equals the total cost of production. The total cost of production plus the work in process at the beginning of the year equals the subtotal. The subtotal minus the work in process at the end of the year equals the total cost of production of finished goods. And that's the production statement in a nutshell. And then I just went deeper into studying the note of the factory overhead cost. Factory overhead costs consist of indirect materials, indirect labor, factory rent, factory electricity and water, factory insurance, depreciation of the machinery and equipment of the plant. And in terms of the notes to the production cost statement, like I said before, those are one of the things that I studied. And then the direct labor cost, here are the notes that I made. When you're trying to calculate the direct labor cost, take the total of the salaries and wages, add the total of the employer's contribution to the salaries and wages, and then find out what percentage or what total is for the factory, and then that will be the total of the direct labor cost. And then the factory overhead cost, in terms of the first one, indirect labor, we take the total salaries and wages, including the employer's contribution. You see, this is important thing. We always include the employer's contribution, and then we multiply by the percentage that adds to the indirect labor, and then we take the total to the factory heads. Depreciation, we only depreciate or record depreciation on factory related equipment or machinery or vehicles. If they say they are factory related, they should specify, and only then will you be able to record them in the factory overhead cost. And the water, electricity, in the sundry expenses, all of them things, and the rent expenses and whatnot. And then we have the production cost statement. Like I said, I was working on that, and one of the reasons I did some unit cost analysis. One of the reasons why, one of the possible questions I answered was, an owner is not satisfied with the wastage of fabric to create a product. Why is there so much wastage of the product? So one of the reasons is unskilled labor, lack of efficiency, and the advice you would give to the owner is train your workers to be more skilled or hire more skilled workers so that there will be less mistakes and less unproductibility and more efficiency. Or maybe there is poor material, and when there is poor material, more material will be wasted. Or an advice for that is you change the supplier and whatnot. Maybe it's a lack of supervision. Maybe the people aren't focused on their job, so you hire a supervisor, or you train the supervisor, or you increase the supervision. And then we talked about the unit cost analysis. After calculating the break-even point and answering all those questions about the units and all the amounts and whatnot, you have to they're gonna ask you a question. Is the owner is not satisfied with what is satisfied or is not satisfied with the this year's break-even point? And you first thing answering a break-even point question, compare to the last year, and then also compare the break-even point from this one to last year to see if it's higher or lower. Compare how much more units are produced above the break-even point. And those are, if you're in that kind of like corner of answering, then they can't penalize you for any more of that. And then I just did the bank reconciliation statement. In terms of like introductory concepts, first thing you have to need to know, kind of, the bank account in the book of the business increases on the debit side. That's normal. But the bank account, our bank account, increases on the credit side in terms of the bank, because if like the bank is a business, we are also a business. So if we have money in our bank account, when we deposit the money into the bank is a business, so it's gonna record it on the credit side because it's an expense to the bank, and the bank still owes us the money because it's our money, it's not the bank's money. And then if we are making payments, our payments are on the credit side, or the CPJ on the credit side, and on the bank it's on the debit side, which is a plus to the bank, which means you are paying money into the bank, and the bank therefore shows it on the debit side. And following transactions or type of adjustments that you'll find in the CRJ: interest on the current account. If the bank balance is favorable, you'll get an interest rate like a bank, maybe FNB, Capitec, whatever. They will give you an interest on a positive balance that will be recorded in CRJ. Direct deposits are done in the bank statement. Internet deposit, EFT, and then deposits, keyword deposits. And then amount overstated in the CPJ. If you have too many money in the CPJ and the error was made, you rectify it by doing the opposite, which is debiting it, which is recording it in a CRJ. And then canceling a lost check. You cancel it in the CRJ, you issue the new check in the CPJ, and the outstanding check will be recorded in the BRS, the bank reconciliation statement. And a stale check, new terminology. Stale check. A stale check is a check that's older than 6 months. So you have to watch out for that and watch your timelines. Dates are important. Like Ashraf Patel said, dates important. Like the dates in your life, very important. And then in terms of the adjustments that fall into the CPJ, we have the bank charges. We are not allowed to record service fees or the checkbook or the credit card cost as individual transactions. You have to add them all up and record it as one thing, which is the bank charges. And the interest on overdraft is also recorded in the CPJ. interest on overdraft, it is recorded on its own because it is not an operating expense. Because when you see where on your income statement, when you record interest on loan, it is not an operating expense, it is an financing expense. And also unpaid checks, EFT payments, stop orders, and debit orders, amounts understated in the CPJ. So if you understated amount, like you were supposed to pay 2,500 and you only paid 2,250, that amount should be increased and posted in the CPJ. And the reissue of a lost check, like we said, the lost check in CRJ, if you cancel it in the CRJ, you have to issue it again. The reissue of a lost check. And then in terms of your bank account, after you have finalized your CRJ and CPJ account, you use your opening balance, whether is it favorable or not from the bank, favorable or unfavorable bank balance as an opening balance, and then you just total your bank account T account, and then there you'll have your balance at the end of the year for your bank account. And then that balance, it will be integral, very important, because you're going to use it in the bank reconciliation statement to balance the whole statement. And in terms of transactions that are recorded in the bank reconciliation statement, we record the closing balance of the bank statement. That is because the bank statement is a statement on its own. We cannot rectify the bank statement. It is not our books, but we can do a bank reconciliation statement, which is an extension of the bank statement, if you understand what I'm saying. So we're starting from the closing balance that the bank has provided, and we are only rectifying from that point. We are adding or minusing according to what they have given us. The deposits that are not yet credited by the bank, if you have deposits coming into the business, a debit to us is a credit to the business. So if the money is coming in to us, they have to be credited in the bank. So if they are not credited, you have to credit it. And the checks drawn, not yet presented for payment, if we have checks, outstanding checks, we have to debit them in the bank reconciliation statement. You have a section in your question paper where they were like, these transactions appeared in the CRJ and the CPJ of the company, but did not appear in the bank statement. So you have to rectify it in the bank reconciliation statement. And the correction of errors or deposits wrongly credited. If the deposit was credited wrongly, then you have to debit it or credit it or double credit or double negative. It's all based on the transaction. And the correction of errors of checks that are wrongly debited. If your check is wrongly debited or wrongly credited, you have to go and look at the transaction and see how actually it was wrongly credited, and see if you're going to have to minus twice, minus once, or and the closing balance of the bank account will then become the balancing figure to make sure that the bank reconciliation statement balances. And when your bank reconciliation statement balances, you did it, boy. You did it. And here's a question, a theory question that needs to be answered before some theory you need to understand. Why is it important for a business to prepare a monthly bank statement? First of all, you must also remember that the bank reconciliation statement is done monthly, so that to update the records, to keep a record of all cash transactions, the books of the business and that of the bank should agree, and the bank balance should be the same in both books. And also, one other thing that I highlighted in the beginning of the video, if you have a stale check which is older than 6 months, the check should have been cancelled in the CRJ and reissued in the CPJ, and then again shown in the bank reconciliation statement. and transactions as per the bank reconciliation statement, and overdraft will be debited in the bank reconciliation statement, because to us it appears in a CPJ. Overdraft is a credit to the business, a debit to the bank, so it will be debited to the business. Outstanding deposits are credited as per bank reconciliation statement, and then outstanding deposits are credited as per bank reconciliation statement. Outstanding checks are debited. The outstanding checks that have not been paid yet are debited. The money that we still owe and still haven't paid yet, outstanding checks are debited as per bank reconciliation statement. That's how far I am with accounting. In terms of, I have done a couple of topics, and I'll check in maybe later. Thank you. And like they say, be a shining star. Accounting shining star. Ashraf Patel. It's almost 10. I was still pushing. We got 2 hours till 12. And then we got 7 hours left before we wake up again. Are we gonna sleep or not? I don't know. But it's going good. Momentum and impulse landed inside. So now we're doing work. Gotta put in the work. Put in the work, bro. Like this. Starting on the top, you know. So, I have 3 different sources, brother. I don't read and write, I read and write. Listen to that, man. You just enjoy always struggling, putting in the work, literally. What's up? Man? Welcome, as you can see, today we've been studying a few hours in the bag, and we've only been in depth with 2 topics. It's about 7:30 now. Before we dive in for the last shift, oh man, it's a tough shift, man. It's tough to see the effort that you need to put in. Understand what I'm saying? You need to put a lot of effort to get the results you want, the expectations you want to exceed. And at all times, always never forget, it's never too late. So now, we're done a couple of topics. Couple of 3 or 4, I don't know. But in terms of the topics that I know basically all the topics I've done before. I have something of an inkling in the back of my mind. So now it's just about reworking the muscle memory so that I can come back and kind of have a level of understanding that I need to have to write tomorrow's paper. And I will not sleep unless I know the rest of this paper. Unlike life science, this paper has huge potential for me to score more marks, because it's more calculations and all that. And thank you for tuning in, man. It's a whole journey. This day is never over, man. We never stop learning. We learn new stuff about ourselves as time goes by, and we never stop learning, man. Also, never forget to drink water. Never stop learning and keep strong. Making this for all the people to see behind the scenes what actually happens and what actually transpires to the back of our mind. Yeah, I think. But yeah, this is just a check-in. I'm a check-in at midnight. We'll see where we're at midnight. Hopefully we are very far ahead. Welcome to another video. Right now we're gonna try and summarize Doppler effect, the first topic I started studying for physics paper 1. Let's start with definition. Definition is the change in frequency or pitch of a sound detected by a listener because of the sound source and the listener have different velocities. They have different velocities relative to the medium of sound propagation. Let's repeat it for cognitive functions. The change in frequency of pitch of a sound detected by a listener because of the sound source and listener have different velocities relative to the medium of sound propagation. And then we skipped a whole lot of things, and then we went to redshift. Redshift is observed when a light from an object increases in wavelength, which means redshift occurs when the light source moves away from the observer. And blue shift occurs when the light from the object decreases in wavelength, which means a blue shift occurs when a light source approaches the listener or the observer. And then frequency is defined as the number of vibrations per second. I remember in grade 10 we used to say number of oscillations per second. Now it's a number of vibrations per second, because sound, we deal with vibrations. And wavelength is the distance between two successive points in phase, like two successive troughs or crests. And then the wave equation, the equation of wave, velocity equals speed. Speed equals frequency times wavelength. So remember that. And then we went on to, learn about how to explain what happens to the sound waves when a source is moving towards the listener. When a source of the sound moves towards the listener, the distance between the successive wave fronts decreases. This results in an increase in frequency of the sound waves reaching the listener's ear. And when the source is moving away from the listener, that's when the wave fronts increase and the frequency becomes lower, and the frequency of the sound waves reaching the listener's ear are lower, or they decrease. And then we checked in some applications of the Doppler effect in the real world. And in terms of the medical field, we have two applications. We have the Doppler flow meter for two different functions. The Doppler flow meter to determine the blood flow. Also the Doppler flow meter to measure the heartbeat of a fetus while the person is still pregnant. And other four applications of Doppler effect in the real world, we have the tracking of satellites, speed traps, detection of storms, and rotation of planets. And then we have the whole theory that scientists have come up with, where they are like, the universe is expanding. To explain this theory, why you say the universe is expanding is that light emitted from many stars is shifted towards the red side. Red side, we know, is away. It moves towards lower frequencies and longer wavelengths, which means it's going further away from the Earth. This means that the stars are moving away from the Earth, and can be concluded as the universe is expanding. That's the definition. And then we did some, application and questioning. And that's Doppler effect for now. Let's go and do another topic. Thank you for enjoying. Welcome to another video. Right now we're going to try and summarize Doppler effect, the first topic I started studying for physics paper 1. Let's start with definition. Definition is the change in frequency or pitch of a sound detected by a listener because of the sound source and the listener have different velocities. They have different velocities relative to the medium of sound propagation. Let's repeat it for cognitive functions. The change in frequency of pitch of a sound detected by a listener, because of the sound source and listener have different velocities relative to the medium of sound propagation. And then we skipped a whole lot of things, and then we went to redshift. Redshift is observed when a light from an object increases in wavelength, which means redshift occurs when the light source moves away from the observer. And blue shift occurs when the light from the object decreases in wavelength, which means a blue shift occurs when a light source approaches the listener or the observer. And then frequency is defined as the number of vibrations per second. I remember in grade 10 we used to say number of oscillations per second. Now it's a number of vibrations per second, because sound, we deal with vibrations. And wavelength is the distance between two successive points in phase, like two successive troughs or crests. And then the wave equation, the equation of wave, velocity equals speed. Speed equals frequency times wavelength. So remember that. And then we went on to, learn about how to explain what happens to the sound waves when a source is moving towards the listener. When a source of the sound moves towards the listener, the distance between the successive wave fronts decreases. This results in an increase in frequency of the sound waves reaching the listener's ear. And when the source is moving away from the listener, that's when the wave fronts increase and the frequency becomes lower, and the frequency of the sound waves reaching the listener's ear are lower, or they decrease. And then we checked in some applications of the Doppler effect in the real world. And in terms of the medical field, we have two applications. We have the Doppler flow meter for two different functions. The Doppler flow meter to determine the blood flow. Also the Doppler flow meter to measure the heartbeat of a fetus while the person is still pregnant. And other four applications of Doppler effect in the real world, we have the tracking of satellites, speed traps, detection of storms, and rotation of planets. And then we have the whole theory that scientists have come up with, where they're like, the universe is expanding. To explain this theory, why you say the universe is expanding is that light emitted from many stars is shifted towards the red side. Red side, we know, is away. It moves towards lower frequencies and longer wavelengths, which means it's going further away from the Earth. This means that the stars are moving away from the Earth, and can be concluded as the universe is expanding. That's the definition. And then we did some, application and questioning. And that's Doppler effect for now. Let's go and do another topic. Thank you for enjoying. Welcome behind the scenes. It's 10 o'clock. It's 10 o'clock. We've been working. Reaction rate is kind of getting there. You understand what I'm saying? So, even though it's cold, even though men were shaking a minute ago, 1 hour later, I'm enjoying. It will be funny if the next hour I'm crashing down. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I will never give up. By the way, I will go up until I understand, dog. It's all about understanding. But yeah, thank you for tuning in behind the scenes. reaction rate, the change in concentration of products or reactions per unit time. Brother, I tell you, you need to drink water. You need to drink water, brother, just to keep strong, because this is tough time. But I feel my mood is back. I feel my mood is back. Now we're gonna fight. After rate of reaction, brother, I go to equilibrium. After equilibrium, I go back to organic chemistry. After organic chemistry, I go back to rates of reaction. After it again, I go back to chemical equilibrium and then energy and change. Brother, what I'm actually trying to say is that I'm gonna repeat and repeat until I understand, brother. And I'm gonna smash that paper. Trust me, I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna report back what happened to physics paper 2. It's funny how subjects you see, man, just subjects. I like a feel-good story, and we're about to make a feel-good story. This is behind the scenes. I don't know why I'm whispering, but we back. Peace. We up early, man. We up early. It's 8 o'clock. Just 8 just hit. I woke up at 6 o'clock. Did some 2 hours studying, because I needed to catch up on some accounting. I did a production cost statement. I think I understand the majority of it. I think I can, teach back and explain to someone if I could, if I were to. So yeah, I think I'm at a good space in terms of the production cost statement, which is like a big part of paper 2 of accounting. So, we're not all is lost, and we still have a whole day, to study and catch all the other concepts. Hopefully this is the roller coaster beginning of a much bigger and better thing, because yesterday was such a loss. Yesterday was such a loss in terms of the fact that I didn't do anything. I had the whole day. I was also home alone, and I couldn't keep accountable, and I was disappointed in myself. But today is a day to salvage in it. Today is a day to salvage, and we're here at the table. And if you could see my notes, I have so many notes. So yeah, it's a bit of a redemption story. Coming back. Thank you. Welcome. This is behind the scenes, man. Behind the scenes of the whole journey from now up until December. We be working, man. We be working. And we'll be putting in the work. And welcome to the journey. If you're new to the channel, subscribe and all of that, man. Subscribe, support the dog, man. Let's get the laundry here. Is the laundry. I'm gonna get it sorted out in a bit. But now we gotta start getting working now. I just realized I was watching UFC, seeing people put the work in. But me, I'm not even putting any work in. I'm just watching. Like the Ultimate Fighter. And I'm like, oh, I want to be like them. I want to be as them. I want to work as hard as them. Even though I don't have the, there's a barrier to entry for me to the sport. I might be too late and all of that. But I feel like, I can put at least the work in and direct it somewhere else. To something else that I think I can achieve. You understand what I'm saying? Oh yeah.
Whether you like or not, doesn't matter.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, I present to you this from men.
Please.
I'm not even touch the phone. Hold the phone in the proper manner.
Can I show you?
No, it's nice like this.
Yes.
On a sweet diet.
He's on a diet, ladies and gentlemen.
This is a gift.
He's not going full, bro. Bombastic side eye. Criminal.
Yenza ngibonisa uphozile kantimanga.
Because I'm on a diet, just want to do.
Bombastic. Criminal offense.
Sitshwa kamera muthi kunjani mem ukunike iswiti?
Ngolo man. Anjabulile yazi benisebenzele leswiti. Benisebenzele leswiti.
Boom sisi. It was cheap. Wethethe.
Yeah, iswiti lami cha. Awuna umuntu ofumana iswiti.
But
Abanye abantu.
hayi ndazivuyela iswiti zakho. Ufike endleleni yakho. Wenza. Nomntana uzuma ini, nomntana uzuma ini. Usuzile nomntana apha. Lo, usuzela ntoni into emnyama? Usuzela ntoni? Ngiyela kangaka. Usuze kangaphandle wena Sathane uqofa ntoni? Uyiqofela ntoni? Uyiqofela ntoni kodwa? Uyiqofela. Wajibika mna. Ngona mafutha nyani. Ufethi. Njani?
Once I was 17 years old, Mama told me, get yourself some friends or you'll be lonely. Once I was 7 years old.
Hada shukini lelo. Shukuta dama.
It was a big one, but we stopped pushing each other.
I know.
Such a
Never reached so we were out to make it. Once I was 7 years old, my daddy told me, go get yourself a wife.
Don't touch it. Don't touch. I don't like you too. I don't like you too. Because that's Dibonile as that's why.